Today's webinar is on what is the Phonics Screening Check. This webinar today is actually aimed at parents and carers of children that might be taking the Phonics Screening Check this year. However, we did do one last week that was all aimed at teachers and how to prepare for the Phonics Screening Check. That session was recorded, so if you're a teacher and you want to watch that back, that will be live on our website very soon on the webinars page, on the same place where you sign up to these webinars. This one is also being recorded, so if you want to watch this one back, you will be able to find that on the same page too in a few days' time, and anybody that signed up will get an email with the link to the recording as well. Okay, so what is the Phonics Screening Check? Well, we'll start with some jargon because there is a lot of jargon associated with phonics. So this is Joe from the Phonics Shed, and he will pop up occasionally with just a little reminder bubble of what some of the jargon is as we're going along. But the main bits of jargon that I'm going to focus on today are blending, and I will also do segmenting in the same conversation, phoneme, grapheme, GPC, and pseudo or alien word. So we'll start with sounds and letters. So phonemes are the smallest units of sound in a word. So some examples here, I've got k, a, s. These are examples of phonemes. They're little bits of sound that I might find in a word. If I look at the word sound, I've got 4 phonemes in it. S, ow, n, d. Graphemes are the letters or combinations of letters that represent a single phoneme. So we've got those individual bits of sound from a word, and they have different letters representing them. So here are some examples with a letter C, or the letters A and Y together representing one sound. The grapheme-phoneme correspondence is the link between the letters and the sound that it represents. So that's also called GPC quite a lot. You might see the term GPC referred to quite a bit in phonics materials. So it's just talking about the link between the letters and the sound that they represent. So using the same examples I've done there for phoneme and grapheme, let's link them together. I could have the letter C representing a K sound. I could have the letter C representing a S sound, like in the word nice. Or I could have the letters AY representing an A sound. So the grapheme is on the left, outside of the slashes, and the phoneme is inside the slashes. So if you see anything in Phonics Shed, or a lot of phonics schemes use the same coding, where it's in slashes like that, it means we're talking about the phoneme, whereas the bit outside of that is the grapheme. We also mentioned blending, and the counterpart to that is segmenting. So blending is the opposite of segmenting. Blending is where you start with the individual phonemes, b, a, t, and then you squash them together into the word. You merge them together. So b, at, bat into the word bat. Segmenting is the opposite. We'll go in the reverse. We start with the word bat, and then we separate it into the individual phonemes. So bat, bat, at, separating it out. So segmenting is the ability to separate a word into the individual phonemes within it. Now, blending is the key skill that we're going to be focusing on today with the Phonics Screening Check, but segmenting is the other one that links with it. You do get some different word types, and there is one that's key for the Phonics Screening Check is this idea of pseudo words. They are also called nonsense words or alien words. These are all talking about the same thing. Pseudo words have the same structure as a word in English, but they've got no meaning as an English word. So they're also called non-words or nonsense words. They're most commonly alien words because they often have a little alien picture like this. So every time a child sees a pseudo word in Phonics Shed or sees a pseudo word in the Phonics Screening Check, it will have a little alien or monster picture with it so that they know it's not a word they've got to find meaning for it. So it's all about a word that doesn't make sense as it doesn't have meaning in English. So let's move on to what is the phonics screening check now that we've got all that jargon covered. So the phonics screening check is a little assessment that happens, and the children read 40 words in this assessment. So 40 individual words. They're not in sentences. They're presented in individual boxes. 20 of these are real words that might be used in everyday vocabulary, although a lot of them, they try and use rarer words so that children won't have seen them before. And 20 of them are those pseudo words, words that don't have meaning in English. There is no time limit on this check, so children can take as long as they need to read these 40 words. It takes between 3 and 9 minutes for an average child to complete the check. And the pass mark is variable each year, and they never tell you what the pass mark is until after the check has happened. So out of the 40 words, every year so far, it has been 32. And the check has been running since 2012, but it is always variable depending on the assessment they get. So it looks a little bit like this. You can see each of the words in their individual boxes, and they will get progressively more complex as you go through the check. So it will start with usually some pseudo words at the beginning, and it will have some real words in. Each page will be of one type of word. So you'll either have a page of real words or a page of pseudo words or nonsense words. And this checks the link between the letters and the sound. So it checks all the GPCs. So children, if they can read that bottom pseudo word there, quisk, if they can do that, that shows that they know these GPCs, because they can't have seen that word before because it's completely made up. And it is completely okay to sound out the word in the way that I just did then. They don't have to look at it and say it automatically. They can go blem and blend it together. Here are some more words that are in the check. That these are from towards the end of the check. They are different words every year in the check, so they do a brand new check. The only exception to that was 2020. They did this. They did a repeat one with it being the COVID year, but other than that, every year they do a fresh check. So when is it? It is in June every single year. It's usually about the second week of June, and this year it is in the week beginning the 9th of June. So that's the phonics screening check week. Your child might sit that phonics screening check any point in that week according to how the school have arranged it. It's never on a particular day or anything like that. It could be any time in that week. The week after is what's called variation week. So if your child was absent during that first phonics screening check week, then they will sit it in the variation week. If they miss both weeks, it will just go down as them being marked as absent completely from the check. And on the 23rd of June this year is when they're due to announce the pass mark for this year. So children will sit this check when they are in the year of year 1. So when they are turning 6 years old, that will be the main time children are sitting that check. If children don't achieve that pass mark of 32, which normally is, or whatever the pass mark is this year, then they might have to do the check again in year 2 to resit it. Okay, this is just so that we can check that children are getting the support that they need. So why do we do it? Well, the purpose of phonics screening check is all to confirm if children have learned that phonic decoding to an age-appropriate standard. So are they able to use all these things we're teaching in school at the level that they should be? Children who haven't reached that level should be getting extra support from the school so that they can improve. So all it is a way of checking that children are going to get the extra support that they need so that they can be successful readers, because early reading is vital. It's so important to everything else that we do in schools. A lot of people wonder why nonsense words are used in the check, why they use those pseudo words, but it's so that it's a pure form of assessment. Children can't have come across the words if they're completely made up. So that's a way of checking that they are actually using these phonics skills. And it's not like we don't come across nonsense words in real life. There's certain words that when you read a book, They will be brand new to you because they're made up in those books, or you might have places that you've never heard of, or even words you've never heard of before. And then you can approach those with a phonics mindset. Okay, the important bit then, how can you help at home? Well, the first thing is read as much as possible. And it doesn't always have to be books, but phonics books can be really helpful for practicing the decoding skill because they're carefully matched to where the children are in their sequence. So that means the children have been taught everything they will need to know to be able to read that book. So that's why using your phonics books is a really good way to prepare for the phonics screening check. It might also mean rereading the books a few times, even though they know the book and they've read it before, so that they can get more fluent reading it. So all the sounds are taught in order, and it depends which phonics scheme you're using as to what order they're taught in. So this is the Phonics Shed sound mat. If you get a chapter 2 reading book, for example, you'd only get chapter 2 things in it. So that's why those decodable reading books are so important. You can read more other things as well, though. You can read real books. They're really helpful for getting children engaged in literature as well. There are a limited number of words in phonics books due to the limited amount of sounds that they know. So they're not always the most exciting storyline. So you might want to read and engage with real books with your children instead. So make sure they enjoy reading. However, you can still use that as an opportunity to read words with your child. So, for example, this book here, the child might want to read the word room. You can get them to read that word in the book, especially if your child's teacher has told you that's got one of their focus sounds in it. However, there might be things like Claude with the DE representing the D that children might not have learned yet. So you maybe wouldn't get them to read that bit. You would maybe read that bit. And you don't just have to read books. You can read absolutely anything like newspapers or recipes and cookbooks, cereal boxes. I always used to read the back of the cereal packet when I was eating my breakfast, road signs, magazines, texts on your phone. Everything is still using that reading skill. Because the phonics screening check is individual words, sometimes reading individual words on a box or on signs is actually really helpful for this, rather than using the context clues in a sentence. You can also ask your child's teacher what sounds they need to practice. So they might give you lists which show you which sounds the children are focusing on which of those phonemes or GPCs the children are really good at, and which ones they could do with practicing a little bit more. So here I can see that the split digraphs ones of E, U and U, with some examples there, e.g. Giving you some examples, are ones that the child needs to practice. So I might use other words with these in, like Swede, rude and cube. You can also access all of the Phonics Shed songs on the Phonics Shed YouTube channel if you want to listen to those sounds a bit more and practice reading it and get to understand some of those. We also have our phonics games. So in Phonics Shed, you've got games like Indie Pop and Dare in the Air, which will help practice with the reading and the spelling using these GPCs that children need to know for the phonics screening check. Doesn't help though is practice tests at home. These can put a lot of unnecessary pressure on children, making it seem like a bigger thing than what it is. Also, a lot of the time schools use these old tests to monitor where children are. If you've practiced that exact test at home and then the child does it in school, they'll do really well in school, and then the teacher maybe won't realise that they're struggling with certain aspects and they will miss out on the support that they need to be able to do it. And then in the real check, it will be different unseen words that no one can practice, so they won't be as successful there as what they could be. Unless the teacher asks you to, please don't do practice tests at home. The teachers may ask you to in certain circumstances for certain children. Don't do lots of pseudo words either. Using the right amount of nonsense words is a complete balancing act. Teachers and schools make sure children are familiar enough with this concept of nonsense words or pseudo words so that they can be successful in the check, but they're used in the assessment because it checks that decoding with words they can't have learned by sight already. It checks they've got those skills to need words. Also, making up your own nonsense words is really, really difficult. For example, if I do this one, ought, okay, it looks like a complete nonsense word, or this one here, cattle, very hard to pronounce. Well, it's actually because thought, when I sound it out, ought, does make a real word. It's just spelled incorrectly there. So I don't want to be making up nonsense words that do actually have a word that sounds right. And the other one, it was so difficult to pronounce because we don't get those letter patterns in English. I would never have to put P, Z and C sounds all together in English. So that's why it would be so much more complicated. On EdShed, there's also the letter tiles tool, which you can use and have a good practice with using words and sound buttons. This is a completely free tool. So if you go to edshed.com/letter tiles, you'll be able to access that tool completely free of charge. You don't even need to log in to use these. You can drag the letter tiles up from the bottom to spell out words. You can focus on particular sounds, and it has got a feature to add the sound buttons under the words that help children read them if they use those in school. You can also get yourself a Phonics Shed subscription if your school doesn't use Phonics Shed. So we do have a Phonics Shed digital home pricing for the year and the monthly price there on the screen. You can also have a look at all of our EdShed tools. If your child's school uses Phonics Shed, then you might get given a little login for Phonics Shed. It might be on this little label or it might be written in their diaries. And you can always go to edshed.com and press the sign in, and the children will be able to access those games and those digital ebooks at home as well. Okay, thank you very much for coming to our webinar. If you've got any questions, please just pop them in the chat box and we'll talk about those now. But yeah, thank you very much.